Hey guys, welcome back to the farm. Today I wanted to show you the beginnings of the chicken production. That is the brooder. It all starts in the brooder, and this is really what kicks off the well-being and the health of the chicks, all the way up to pasture, and then ultimately being processed. So I wanted to show you what we got going now and what we had going last year. Maybe we'll insert a clip or something like that. And then where we're going for next year, the progression of the last 3 years, or 3 seasons really, of brooders, and what's worked for us at the beginning and where we're going. So first, we'll start in here. So part of what I'm going to show you extends to our production system. Some of this worked great this year and other parts of it not so much. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. But you can see this is in our barn right here. We have 4 different brooders, and they're all, these chicks are all at different growth cycles. The 4 brooders that we have represents the 4 weeks in a month. And so that's been our system, is that we'll have that revolving door, so to speak. And that worked pretty well, except for the chickens grow at different rates throughout the year. So what took us, 7 weeks, or actually it was 8 weeks to get a 4-pound chicken in the spring and early summer. Toward the summer, end of summer, and during the heat, August and all that, they were actually getting too big. They were like 5.5, 6 pounds, and so we had to bump it back to 7 weeks. And in order to do that, we had to process twice in 1 month to take that extra week off of their growth cycle. And then what I'm discovering is the weather's cooling down in the fall. We've got to go back out to 8 weeks. So that means we have to skip a week of processing. So those different growth rates really messed with our production. So that's what didn't really work for us by doing a weekly production like this. We're going to change that for next year, and I'll show you once we get to the space where our brooder is going to be for next year. But this is our brooder. We operate the deep bedding system, which has worked really well. And basically all that is we are having the chicks do all of our composting for us. So I'll start with a nice layer of wood chips. The chicks will poop and do their thing. They're gonna scratch and move this all around. And then I'm going to come and aerate it with a pitchfork, and then add fresh chips as needed. But basically, this is our compost bin, and that being a compost bin, it naturally produces its own heat, and so that helps the chicks also, more of an even heat distribution. These guys are about a week old, so we do have both heat lamps on. They need to be about 90 degrees at this point. So anyway, this is our current brooder setup. Let me show you what's coming for next year. Okay, so we're still in the barn, but a newer section of the barn. That was the original barn that was built in like 1900. This is all newer. But in here is gonna be our brooder for next year. It's gonna give me a whole lot more space and ability to just expand. So this is going to be our brooder. This is a 12 by 25 room. We do have some work to get it ready to be a brooder, but if you can put on your imaginary glasses and imagine a divider that's probably about 2 foot high. It might just be plywood, maybe a plywood strip around the whole room, closing off the roll-up door and all that. And that divider, we're basically going to buy 2 weeks of chicks at once, right? And then this will be 4 weeks of chicken in here. The first group, or half of that 2 weeks of chicks, we're gonna process at 7 weeks. And then the second half, we're gonna process at 8 weeks old. And that's gonna be all year long. So some birds will be a little bit smaller, the second batch will be a little larger, but we've got to stick with a weekly processing. I can't skip a week like we did this year. So that's our production schedule for next year. It's going to be really nice in here. This room is a whole lot more airtight, a lot less drafty. And then of course with it being concrete floor, anytime we need to change bedding or whatever, we'll literally be able to come and take a shovel and scoop this out, maybe even pressure wash it, whatever. So this is the brooder for next year. Ultimately, they'll be probably in the 700 range, 700 chicks in here next year at its peak. So this is going to be a happening place. Maybe I'll have Anna give you a clip of last year's, our very first year's brooder. Very primitive. It was literally just hay bales squared off with wood shavings. Very basic, right? So we were starting from scratch, knew nothing, but it worked for us. Okay, so that's a good little snapshot of past, present, and future brooder setups. This has been an incredible learning opportunity for us, and I imagine as time goes on, we're going to continue to learn and revise what we've got just to have predictable, reliable source of locally raised chicken. Behind me, you'll see our chicken tractors. Maybe in another video, I'll show you the chicken tractor setup, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and then also what's coming for next year, because it's going to be different. I'll just say that. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to cover really quick was hatchery. This year we had trouble with our hatchery. We were getting chicks out of Texas. This was August of this year, 2022, I guess.
Yes, that's what year we're in.
We had some issues with hatcheries this year. We were getting chicks out of Texas in August, and we had a huge mortality rate. This was in the heat of summer. It took 2 days to get them out of Texas, and they just weren't making it. And so that was another very large and kind of an expensive learning curve. Was the more local that you can get your chicks, the better. Price isn't everything. We were getting a good price where I think we were paying $1.50 for chicks out of Texas, but cheap chicks doesn't really matter if they're arriving dead, right? And so that was a huge learning curve. Next year, I've already been communicating with the hatchery. So we're in Middle Tennessee. The hatchery that I think at this point we're going to try to use is out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. That's about an hour, maybe an hour 15 from us. And I'm personally going to go pick them up from the hatchery. So we're not going to use the post office at all. So that'll be a huge, huge thing for us just to get that predictability and have a dependable schedule, production schedule. So anyway, lots of things that we've learned, but that's it in a nutshell. The brooder, our chick situation. We'll cover tractors later, and then maybe we'll get into processing and some of the other stuff too that happens here on the farm. So anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you. You mean a lot to us on the farm, and we'll catch you guys on another video.